There's a common understanding that where we're at right now in life is not the end goal of where God wants us. Even if we don't know the exact timeline of all these certain things, we have an understanding that we want this kind of house, this kind of car, this kind of family. And if you even close your eyes right now, you can kind of see it a little bit. You see yourself happy, smiling, feeling fulfilled, and you finally feel like all the work you put in has finally paid off. But one thing we don't do is take into consideration how much work is between now and then. And I hear people say things like, I'm young, I'm gonna have fun, or you only live once, and that kind of mindset. And while that mindset does allow you to have fun now and enjoy life while you're young, it also keeps you blind to the fact that one day you won't be this young. And more importantly, it can lead you to a failure of realizing that you won't just automatically flourish into that person you want to be one day. And you can't just keep saying, F it, I'm young forever, or I'll stop doing this when I'm married, or anything along those lines. This kind of stuff isn't automatic. It's not bought. It's cultivated over weeks, months, and years of constant work, dedication, and discipline. So don't fool yourself, because time will pass whether you put in that work or not, because there is no switch. I want you to close your eyes for a minute. Are they closed? Go back and envision that person that you thought of before. Where do they work? How do they speak? Who do they hang around? How do they spend their free time? Now open your eyes and ask yourself the same questions. And ask yourself, are the ways you're living now allowing that person that God created to come into this world? And I'm not saying that you have to leave your entire friend circle right now or go and quit your job or anything, but I'm saying that the way that you're living today is important. And it's even more important to not be unconscious about it. Because whether you realize it or not, you're constantly building habits. Good ones, bad ones, and ones you don't really notice. And all habits have roots. And that person that you envisioned moments ago also has habits. And the same principle applies. Their habits have roots. And those roots start with you, today, right now. As Christians, we desire not only to produce fruit, but specifically the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience. I got it. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I need it in my notes, but it is what it is. But these are the qualities that the Bible calls us to show in our lives. And they must be habitual to us. And the same principle applies. These habits have roots. So again, ask yourself, are the actions and places you're putting yourself in today putting you in spots where you can genuinely show the fruit of the Spirit in your life? Because fruit will grow whether you're conscious about it or not. And the foundation of who you will be in the future starts here and now. But it's not an automatic thing. It's incremental steps that we take each day. It's actively making the choice to walk on the narrow path of righteousness because we understand the value of walking with Christ and not the world. It's not jumps. It's not a ride. It's definitely not a flight. It's steps. That's why it's called walking with Christ. We serve a God who can move quickly, but he prefers a much more methodical and patient path. So think of your life in the same way. If God isn't rushing you, why are you gonna rush yourself? And if you feel like God is rushing you, that's not God. So how do we take life in micro steps? First things first, live a life that is completely submitted to God. Seek his kingdom first, and all other things shall follow. This includes the plan. There's a level of trust that comes with allowing God to lead you as you go about life, step by step and season by season. So when you pray and ask God, what's our next step here? You gotta be able to also trust and not worry about what it's gonna look like after that because you're not there yet. And if you feel like, I haven't heard from God in a minute, I don't really know how to hear his voice. Or I've heard his voice one time, I haven't heard it in a very long time. I would say, go back to the last thing that God told you to do, complete that first. He's not gonna give you more if you haven't finished your plate. And my next tip in taking life in micro steps, just calm down. You don't gotta have everything figured out right now because plans change, the world changes, and most importantly, you're going to change. So don't limit yourself to the plan that you yourself created. This is why the word says submit all things to God, because he can give you so much more than you thought you could ever have in ways even better than you thought were possible. But it starts with not only submitting your plans, goals, and desires to God, but being patient with the speed that he sets for you. Because even the plans that we have, no matter how big and great we think they were made in the finite human minds that we hold. And the desires of our heart will never truly be enough for us. I want you to again think of that person you thought of moments ago. the version of you in the version of the future that you desire. Well, that person has a future that they desire as well, and so on and so forth. You see what I'm trying to say? And what I'm trying to say is there really is no end goal to growth. You can sit back and be like, I've done well for myself, but there will always be something more that we want, which is why it's also important to practice the art of contentment, knowing that whatever level of life you're at, God's got you, and that what he has for you in the future, not only is it good, but it can fulfill you so much more than the things that you can imagine on your own. But know that none of this is automatic. It's a step-by-step process. A process that requires your discipline and dedication, but also your full trust in God. So put away those things that you know are holding you back from that future God has for you, right? So some easy examples, those parties, those girls that you know for a fact are not long-term, those guys that just play in your face, and all the other things out there in the world. Because no matter how much you think you can outgrow that stuff later, you're wrong. So don't fool yourself. You can't just flip the switch.